Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah. I'm the Education Director at Lubeznik Center for the Arts. Welcome to our Facebook Live event coming to you from the center. There are quite a few of us in the room, so we're going to stay masked today to stay safe. But for the next half hour or so, we are going to discuss and celebrate a really beautiful, poignant exhibit here in our NIPSCO Education Studio, which is called Pipelines, Borderlines, Art of Survival. It's a gorgeous show that champions environmental justice. It includes 24 printmakers from the US, Canada, Mexico, and South America, I believe, Central America, that really take witness and tell stories of climate catastrophes, but they're cautionary tales for sure, but they're also hopeful and inspiring stories of how we can heal our planet. The center is open for visitors, so please do feel like you can visit us safely. This exhibit is up in the gallery here until March 12th, so there's plenty of time to see it after you learn all about it right now. Today, you're going to hear from Beverly Keys, who's the founder of Pipelines and Borderlines and the curator of this exhibit, along with our friend and local artist Corey Hagelberg, who is not only involved in the project, but will also do a demonstration of relief printmaking for us during this time together. So thanks for being with us, and I'm going to turn it over to Beverly.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Beverly Keys. I am the founder and director of Pipelines and Borderlines, a print portfolio that curates environmentally themed portfolios and exhibits. A print portfolio, which a lot of people don't know, is a collaboration of artists that get together and create editions of the same size and number about a common theme. The first two portfolios that Pipelines and Borderlines did were based on environmental issues. However, this one is different. The Art of Survival's, our most recent portfolio, and this exhibit here, focuses on people's actual experiences of dire environmental conditions instead of the issue taking the lead. And I believe that art based on real people's stories can reach viewers in a much deeper way. What we did in order to make this come true is Pipelines and Borderlines researched and documented 24 stories from Alaska down to Honduras, about 24 different communities, and then 24 amazing professional artists chose the story that spoke to them and made their images and their artwork based on that. In addition, and I'm really excited about this, Pipelines and Borderlines has been wanted to make like an extra step to connect and really further honor all these communities and all the artists. And it's be another way for them to connect together with each other and the public. The artist will be presenting one print by each artist to the community he or she chose to do their image on. And today, right here at Lubeznik, is the first presentation. And this is a major milestone for Pipelines and Borderlines. I'm very, very grateful to Anna and everyone at Lubeznik, and of course Corey, our artist here. Thank you both very much. Corey Hagelberg chose a story about the BP plant in Indiana and the mess they're creating with their petcoke piles and the health hazards that they're causing. And Corey also chose the community he wants to present the award to. Corey is coming over here right now. And I'll give you this.
Okay.
And this is what he's going to present, if you want to open it, to the community that's responsible for this. There's Corey's statement. So this is one out of hopefully 24. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Bev, and thanks to Hannah as well. I just want to talk a little bit about Just Transition, and then I'm going to do a quick print demo for you. We chose Just Transition Northwest Indiana because it's really an organization that gives us a lot of hope, gives me a lot of hope. When we talk about these issues of climate catastrophe or of environmental degradation, it's so easy to go down a rabbit hole of darkness and to be pessimistic. But Just Transition is a great group because they really are taking proactive steps to think about what the future could look like if we plan ahead, if we don't just let the future play out. It is inevitable that we will be transitioning away from fossil fuels, away from coal. So what does that look like? That's going to mean that people will be having to change their occupation, will be having to look at how the world will be different. And so it's really brave to think about, well, how could this be a positive vision? How could we think about a positive vision for the future rather than just leaving people and communities hanging? And, in addition to that thinking about, the messes that have been already created, if we want to move forward in a positive way, really embracing the environment, embracing the idea of creating a healthier environment for everybody is really the best path forward. And Just Transition is really doing that. And, it's part of a larger transition movement around the world, thinking about, again, optimistic visions for the future, thinking about how can we be more sustainable as communities, create regenerative communities that are able to feed people, thinking about not only the climate crisis, but the hunger crisis in the Rust Belt where we are, in a lot of cities around the country, and how those issues intersect and how we can solve all those things together. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start doing my print demo, and I'll probably have more to say as we go on. So the process that I focus on is black and white printmaking. It's relief printmaking. It's also called woodcut, so it's carved out of a block of wood. This would be a piece of poplar, about 3/4 of an inch thick. Poplar, pine, any kind of softwood works well for this process. You can even use recycled wood. A lot of times I do that. This block here is cut from a little bit thinner block of wood. You can use both sides if you want to, conserve resources. And so I carve the blocks with chisels and gouges. So I know it's kind of a little bit hard to see this, but I have kind of a thin gouge. It's called a V-gouge that would be used for carving lines. I have what would be a U-gouge, which would be for clearing larger areas. So that's a pretty small one, maybe about 1/4 inch width. And then I have some much bigger ones that I generally wouldn't use for a print of this size, but some of my prints are much larger and require more area to be cleared. So these are really simple tools, really simple technology. You can if you have a block of wood, you can make a mark in it with a nail or with a knife in a lot of different ways. So it's a really versatile process. It's the oldest form of printmaking. Black and white relief printmaking is basically as old as paper itself. The first mass-produced books were made in a process that's very similar to this. Basically, I carve, or I'll draw on my block, and I'll do just a kind of a quick demonstration, and this isn't really going to amount to any kind of image, but it carves pretty easily. The major rule is always cut away from yourself. And so, it's a really direct and basic process. Basically you're making what would be the equivalent of a big stamp. So, what I like about it is, it's bold. It has, a certain amount of wall power, what I would refer to as wall power, where, it's recognizable from a distance. And actually, I'm going to move this over here because I'm going to get some ink, just not to get ink on it. So the image I'm going to be printing is the image from the portfolio here. The text says, "Tar sands, pet coke, life on Earth, up in smoke." And it's really a cautionary tale, as Bev was saying. Tar sands is oil, is a place in Alberta that is heavy in oil. But this oil is a super heavy, dense, hard to refine oil that creates more industrial waste than even your typical oil, which is already very bad. There's this oil is mined in Alberta, and it's piped down to the BP plant in East Chicago, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Keystone Pipeline. That was built to pipe tar sands oil, and since this oil is so heavy, it's hard to pipe. The pipelines break a lot, and then there's additional pet coke, which is a byproduct of oil making. It's essentially kind of like the dirty carbon of making oil. And as Bev said, there's issues with the storage of it. With this dirty byproduct, you always have to figure out where to put it. And they've been putting it on the south side of Chicago. There's been issues with large piles building up, and the wind can blow it because it's sort of light, which creates breathing problems and many health issues for any kind of resident that lives in that community. So, basically all of these industrial processes, whether it's burning coal to make electricity or creating oil, not only pollute on the user end, but they often create some kind of byproduct, which is usually kind of hidden. So, this is a major issue. My words for this print are sort of a word of warning, maybe sort of an assessment of the situation. That doesn't mean I'm not optimistic and don't try to see things in a way that will allow us to envision a different future. And, quite honestly, in the several years since I've made this print, I've learned a lot about regenerative agriculture and, local foods movements and, organizing people to speak out against these kind of issues. So Just Transition, is one of the groups that I've worked with that really gives me hope in that regard. So I showed you the carving process. So basically, to print a woodcut, once you've carved it out, I draw the image, I carve it. Usually during the course of it, I'll kind of rub graphite on it to see what it looks like. You can get a real good idea of what it looks like. Sometimes I redraw. I like woodcut because I can draw the image 10 times before I decide where each line is going to be. Sometimes I'll draw I'll use a more visible color. I'll start with a thin pencil, then I'll move to a thicker pencil, then I'll start using Sharpie, and then at some point I start using red Sharpie to define the image as I go along. So the ink I use is, it's an oil ink, but it washes off with water, so it's known as a safe Caligo ink. So let me just put some out on the palette here. And for palette, you can use a piece of plexiglass. This is actually just kind of a recycled piece of plexiglass, which works well for me. You roll the ink out on the block with what's called a brayer. As you get kind of a puddle built up, and you want the ink to sort of just hiss a little bit. And you want to, especially if you haven't printed a block for a while, you want to make sure that there's nothing on it, because even the littlest speck of whatever will actually show up in the print, which you can fix later. And one of the things that I like about printmaking, you can make prints that are all exactly the same. And some people sort of fuss over that and will throw away prints if they're not perfect. I like a little bit of variation. If I have a sky or something, I like to make it so maybe it's, I press the image a little bit more in one than the other. So it's sort of it's a multiple image, but it can also be unique in that regard. And as Bev said, printmaking portfolios are a really interesting way for printmakers to connect with each other and to get their work out there. In a printmaking portfolio, such as this one, what happened was Bev sent me, I think it was 25 pieces of paper, and I printed 25 of these or something like that, and 40, I'm sorry. And I printed, it even probably says on there, they're each editioned, that's 32 out of 40. So I made 40 prints and I sent them back to her, and then I got a whole portfolio back in the mail, which is just like the best present you'll ever get in your life. And so it's a way to kind of get things out there in the world. And so, definitely very appreciative of to Bev for including me in this. And so you want to ink it up until it sort of just hisses just a little bit. And the paper that I use here it's a mulberry paper. So it's made from the bark of a mulberry tree, and it's very soft. It would be considered an Asian-style paper. You can print on thicker papers, but you would generally need a printing press to do that. I like this because you can really very much do something like this at your kitchen table. You just kind of drop the block. You can make marks, sort of figure out exactly where you're going to drop it ahead of time, or you can trim the paper afterwards. Pull it to the edge of the table. Just make sure you got a hand on it. And it helps to have something around that you can kind of put on it once you have it sort of figured out where it's going to be. And Really, you can use a wooden spoon or a metal spoon. I have both here. Brought all my spoons today. And you really just kind of start to burnish it. And you want, the other thing is you want to make sure you're printing on, if you have a paper like this, there's going to be a smooth side and a rough side. And you might think you want to print on the rough side because it might absorb better, but it'll actually print a lot faster if you print on the smooth side. And so, yeah, I mean, one of the things that really draws me to printmaking is the affordability, the accessibility of it. Since this is a print that I have that I can make multiple copies of, once I've carved the block, something like a print like this, is super easy to give away. Without feeling too precious about it. You can put them up in the streets. Trading prints is a real big thing. And so, of all the art forms, printmaking is certainly one of the most accessible ones. And so, you kind of get an initial layer of ink. Generally speaking, you're going to want to add some ink. That's pretty light. It's not too bad. Some people might go with that. I'm going to just add a little bit more ink. So this image of the smokestack is one that I incorporate in quite a few of my works. Here in Northwest Indiana, I'm from Gary. We're in Michigan City here. It's about a 35-minute drive for me to get here. And it's quite a diverse trip. You go through a national park, and then you go past one of the biggest steel mills in America, and then you go through a state park, then you go past the NIPSCO coal-fired power plant. And so seeing smokestacks like this is just kind of a regular part of the landscape where we live. And in Gary specifically, it's kind of like the focal point of the town. So I think of it like, those old towns in Europe where the church is the center of the town, and sort of just trying to draw that connection between our major institutions, the institutions where we learn about what the moral path might be. And around here, obviously jobs are important, and we to a certain degree, we're told we have to choose between having good jobs and living in a polluted environment. I think that's changing, but you know, I hope that these images sort of start to kind of address that question, that dynamic. And you know, I think that's part of what Just Transition is doing. Just a little bit more ink. And it's really preference, you know, whether you want to get like a jet black or, you know, some grays are okay. You know, I think I'll go with that. I think that'll work just fine. So, yeah, that's how you make a black and white woodcut. Hopefully that gives you some information on how you might be able to do it at home. Of course, you know, if you have any questions, there's plenty of resources online, or, you know, send me a message on Facebook or whatever. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Corey. My bad. I forgot I wasn't mic'd. Hi, guys. Sorry. It was beautiful. Thank you so much, Corey. This is such a treat to watch your process and watch you work. And I love it because then I was like, hey, Corey, do you need a press for the demo? And he was like, no, I use spoons, which was brilliant. But again, this show is up at the Lubeznik Center for the Arts here until March 12th. Please come view it. It's a beautiful exhibit, and the work that Bev and Corey have done to make this happen and to bring local climate stories as well as global climate stories here to this exhibit. It's vital, it's relevant. I thank you both so much for bringing this here and for being with us today. So please don't hesitate to come visit the center and check out the show. Also, our spring classes are open for registration. We have classes for all ages with robust scholarship programs, so you can reach out to me with any questions about those. But we'll see you here at the center soon. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.